He suffered a number of cuts, scratches and bruises during the scuffles. Lui said a man at the rally pulled his camera strap and the camera fell to the ground. When Lui said he was going to file a police report, the man attempted to flee. Then more people moved in, pushing and shoving him around. TVB reporter John Xian said when he and the other cameraman, Anson Pun, arrived at the scene to help Lui, they too came under attack. Xian said he was wearing the press identification armband at the time, but was still assaulted. He said he was punched and kicked multiple times. A camera of the TVB news team was briefly taken away by someone at the scene. TVB got it back later after reporting to the police about the loss of property. An RTHK reporter said she was also assaulted at the rally. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
Well, TVB News today sent letters to Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying and the Commissioner of Police, Andy Zheng, calling for an investigation into the attacks on journalists and resolute action to bring the culprits to justice. The Chief Executive's office says the government respects press freedom and that the police will seriously follow up on the incident. Owen Fung has that story.
In the two letters, TVB News strongly condemns what happened last night, stressing that violent attacks on journalists cannot be tolerated. The broadcaster calls on the chief executive to task the police commissioner with bringing the assailants to justice to prevent similar violence from happening again and safeguard the rule of law in Hong Kong. In its letter to the police chief, TVB News says officers at the scene last night could have immediately stopped and arrested the assailants. It urges the police to follow up on every lead, carry out a just and fair investigation, and bring the culprits to justice. In response, the Office of the Chief Executive states that the CE and the SAR government respect press freedom while assuring that the police will seriously follow up on the matter. Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam also deplored last night's violence. She said the government will protect journalists in carrying out their duties. The police expressed their deep concern about the incident.
These cases have been classified as assault occasioning actual bodily harm, criminal damage, and common assault, and are now being investigated by the Regional Crime Unit of Kowloon West Region.
Elsewhere, 6 media and journalist organizations have condemned the violence and petitioned the police. They demanded a thorough investigation into recent attacks on journalists.
Any attack on journalists is not just on him or her, but on the press freedom and on the rights to know for every citizen in Hong Kong.
The Hong Kong Journalists Association has also demanded a meeting with the Commissioner of Police to discuss the matter. Meanwhile, Letitia Lee, one of the organizers of the rally last night, condemned the attack, stating that the organizers did not instigate the violence. Owen Fung, TVB News.
Two other news tonight here in Hong Kong. Still not clear yet when a landmark cross-border stock trading scheme will come into effect. Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing announced today it has not received approval to launch the Shanghai-Hong Kong Stock Connect scheme, so there is no firm date for its implementation. There have been market expectations that the project would begin this month. The so-called through train scheme will allow the trading of stocks between Hong Kong and Shanghai with an initial total quota of 550 billion yuan. Overseas now, Indonesian President Joko Widodo has unveiled his new cabinet. For the first time, the country has a female foreign minister. The 34-member cabinet includes technocrats who will be tasked with economic reform, as well as politicians who supported Jokowi's rise to power. Retno Marsudi, the country's ambassador to the Netherlands, was named foreign minister. Former army chief Ria Mizard Riyakudu is defense minister. He's seen as a hardliner. The president took the unprecedented step of asking Indonesia's Anti-Corruption Commission to vet cabinet candidates. That resulted in the rejection of 8 of Jokowi's nominees, forcing him to delay his announcement and find last-minute replacements. Voters in Latin America's largest country go to the polls today in what is expected to be Brazil's tightest presidential election race in decades. The latest polls show the incumbent, Dilma Rousseff, with a slight lead over her challenger as they head into a bitterly contested runoff vote. Amid accusations of government corruption, the campaigns of the left-leaning Workers' Party and the center-right Social Democracy Party have hit a fever pitch in the last few weeks. Incumbent Dilma Rousseff and challenger Aisho Neves have fought bitterly to convince voters that they can deliver on economic growth while maintaining social advances. As they headed for the final debate, there was no shortage of verbal jabs and allegations.
Não existe esse sí.
The latest polls give Rousseff an edge of as much as 8 percentage points. The choice between Rousseff and Neves has split Brazilians into two camps. Rousseff has gained ground with poorer Brazilians by reminding voters of the rising wages and expanding social programs over the past 12 years of her party's rule. She says Neves would only govern for the elite. Neves has hammered Rousseff over a widening kickback scandal at a state-run oil company. Wealthier Brazilians who are against what they see as too much government control of the economy favor his business-friendly stance. He's promising new ideas on an economy that has stagnated for the last 4 years. With the rallies over, Brazil's more than 140 million voters will go to the polls in a compulsory vote with plenty of security. Most votes will be registered through a system of more than 500,000 electronic ballot boxes that election officials promise will enhance security. Meanwhile, the military is being deployed to polling stations in communities that are notorious for violence between drug gangs and the police. Elsewhere, a total of 3 U.S. states have made it a mandatory requirement to quarantine anyone who had direct contact with Ebola patients for 21 days. But one nurse who treated Ebola patients is outraged by the move and claims she was treated like a criminal upon her return from West Africa. Here's Sonia Artero.
21 days is thought to be Ebola's maximum incubation period. So that's exactly how long health authorities in New York, New Jersey, and Illinois are going to quarantine arriving passengers who either treated or had contact with Ebola sufferers.
In a region like this, you go out 1, 2, or 3 times, you ride the subway, you ride a bus, you could affect hundreds and hundreds of people. So I don't believe this is too serious to be dealing with voluntary quarantine.
Our states have to be the most vigilant, and we are going to be the most vigilant.
Such drastic steps were mandated when Dr. Craig Spencer came down with the virus after returning to New York from treating Ebola patients in West Africa. But nurse Casey Hickox claims the new requirements made her feel like a criminal at Newark Liberty International Airport. As a volunteer with Doctors Without Borders, Hickox donated her time to help fight the outbreak in Sierra Leone. And even though she tested negative upon her return, Hickox was transported to a New Jersey hospital where she remains quarantined inside a tent. Such Ebola hysteria had President Barack Obama pleading with Americans to base the disease on facts, not fear.
Of the 7 Americans treated so far for Ebola, the 5 who contracted it in West Africa, plus the 2 nurses from Dallas, all 7 have survived.
One of those survivors is Ashoka Mukpo. He contracted the virus in Liberia working as a freelance cameraman for NBC News. He worries the 21-day quarantine is a major disincentive.
Every healthcare person who goes over those countries and treats Ebola patients is a precious, precious commodity that is incredibly valuable in the fight against Ebola. So to do anything that makes it more difficult for those people to go is not the right thing to do right now.
Sonia Artero, TVB News.
Sports now, and lots of exciting football action to show you, so let's get to it. We begin in Spain, where Real Madrid and Barcelona renewed their rivalry at the Bernabeu. Barcelona got off to a dream start in this battle of the Titans. Just 3 minutes in, Neymar's strike broke the deadlock.
It's nailed on the foul.
Real Madrid were back on level terms after the half-hour mark. Gerard Piqué handled the ball in the box, and Cristiano Ronaldo made no mistake from 12 yards out.
Sent over by Kroos on the corner.
The home team took the lead here after the break. A powerful header by Pepe off a corner.
So far, he pops up.
Karim Benzema finished off the Catalans with this strike, 3-1, the final score.
Gets a goal.
Real Madrid now just 1 point behind Barcelona at the top of the table. In the English Premiership, an exciting match at Upton Park. Morgan Alma-Fitano opened the scoring for West Ham against Manchester City here.
Valencia.
The Hammers doubled their lead in the 75th minute.
Sacco!
Diafra Sakho's header found the back of the net.
He's got the beating of Clichy all day.
An excellent solo effort by David Silva was not enough for the defending champs, which lost this one 2-1.
Since netting the first of City's season at Newcastle in August.
And Liverpool were held to a goalless draw at home by Hull. Mario Balotelli still looking for his first league goal for the Reds. World Series is now a best-of-3 affair. The San Francisco Giants manhandled the Kansas City Royals in Game 4. This is the game's key hit. Pablo Sandoval snapped a 4-4 tie in the 6th inning with a 2-run single. Brandon Belt followed with an RBI single. The Giants scored 4 more times in the very next inning. The final score, San Francisco 11, Kansas City 4. The best-of-7 showdown is now tied at 2 games apiece. Time now for the weather before we go. Cloudy overnight and into the morning. Sunny periods for tomorrow, and temperatures between 24 and 28 degrees. That is all from the newsroom for now. Thanks for joining us.